It's Friday, April 26, 2024. Hope everybody's having a great day. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Bunch of notes here I want to share with you with some articles. I'm going to start the show out today. I want to share my thoughts on a video that I watched last night, and it came from the Dave Ramsey show. Many of you hate him. Many of you love him. Many of you may not even know who he is. But I think Dave's a smart guy. I have nothing against him. But there's a few things where I think he really sells out and he's really misleading his listeners. And I think it's very, very dangerous. There was a show last night I was watching and it was on YouTube. It was filmed 9 days ago. And somebody calls in and he's explaining to Dave that his wife believes that they should sell their home and sit on the sidelines for the next 6, 9, 12 months and see how the real estate market plays out, because his wife believes that the real estate market is going to crash. And Dave is laughing. And he says there's nothing indicating a housing crash is coming. And I'm listening to Dave going, nothing indicating a housing crash is coming. Well, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of red flags out there that indicate a housing crash is coming. We're seeing more inventory hitting the market. We're seeing way more layoffs. Lots of people are losing their jobs. We're seeing more inflation. We're seeing stagflation now. We're seeing way higher mortgage rates, 7.3% today. We're seeing less qualified buyers. And we're seeing people now who literally are forced to sell their homes because they can't even afford to insure their homes. We're looking at a country now where 78% of this country is living paycheck to paycheck. Many can't even make it to the next paycheck. And Dave Ramsey doesn't see any issues with housing. He sees no housing crash coming. And I think he is completely wrong. I think this is very misleading. I think it's very, very dangerous. And he's laughing at this caller. He says, quit reading the internet. There are some really dumb people out there. And look, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm just a dumb one here. But boy, doesn't this look like, as far as the housing market right now, doesn't this look a lot like 2007? If you look at the entire economy right now, it's looking more like 1929. But if you look at the housing market, it's resembling 2007. Massive bubbles, massive building, people ignoring it. And you just get this feeling that this whole thing could implode at any time. Dave goes on to say, I have a friend that has gold bars in his basement. So he had to take a shot at anyone who owns gold. As many of you may know, Dave Ramsey does not really believe in gold. He thinks it's a pet rock, a barbarous relic. But he thinks that there will be no housing collapse. I would ask Dave, why are central banks stockpiling gold at an alarming rate? How come China has 30,000 plus tons of physical gold? How do you explain that? And of course, Dave doesn't really believe BRICS is a threat to the United States or the US dollar. I think Dave better wake up, because he's really misleading people here, extremely dangerous. He says, don't live in fear. Homes are getting multiple offers. I would agree, maybe in 1 or 2% of the markets right now. But remember when they were getting multiple offers in about 90% of US markets? That's not happening anymore. I'm seeing nothing. Where I'm looking in the southern part of the United States, I'm seeing price reduction after price reduction after price reduction. The caller's wife read an article that new home sales fell as rates rise. This gentleman was explaining to Dave. Dave says, no one clicks on stuff unless it bleeds. That's just clickbait. No, that was actually reported in mainstream news all across the internet, and these are facts. It was a mainstream report. New home prices are down over 18% from their peak, and they're down 4.5% year over year. And this doesn't even include mortgage buy downs or incentives, swimming pools, granite countertops, travertine floors, the custom doors, the nice windows. It doesn't include all that stuff. So new home prices are down even further than that. Dave goes on to say that interest rates have come down, and they're actually going up. 7.3% today on bankrate.com. That's with 20% down. That's with great credit. So I wanted to just share that with you. Look, this is no personal vendetta against Dave Ramsey. He's a multimillionaire, very successful, smart guy. But he's also heavily invested in real estate. And to me, that's a little bit of a conflict of interest when you're heavily invested in something and then you're promoting it on your YouTube channel or radio show or wherever. Of course, you want people in the housing market, because if they're not, your investments are going down. So again, very misleading, very, very dangerous. I would advise anybody right now, make sure you're doing your homework. I think, in my opinion, this is the worst possible time to buy a home. And I think that the people who bought a home last year, the people who are buying a home this year, they're going to regret what they have done. We are going to see prices coming down. This is the same FOMO they were telling us 2 years ago on the car lots. And now they don't know what to do with all these cars. And here we are now, we're going to come to a point they're not going to know what to do with all these houses. Who's going to buy all these homes? People can't qualify. They don't have enough income. They have too much debt. It just goes on and on and on. And if you can't even afford the property insurance, how are you going to buy the home? So be careful out there. Here's one today. Florida real estate inventory surges, sellers slash prices. This today on the New York Post. On the west coast of Florida, inventory is surging to unforgivable levels, and sellers are beginning to slash prices. Western parts of the state, whose coastline is on the Gulf of Mexico, Cape Coral and North Port, inventory has jumped 50%. It says here, North Sarasota saw a 48% rise in inventory. West Palm Beach saw a 20% rise in inventory. The article goes on to say that these out-of-town buyers, people coming in from out of state, they are not looking at Florida as a value any longer. And so you all have heard the news. Property taxes, property insurance in Florida going through the roof. People that are there don't know how they're going to hang on to these homes. And I believe Florida has the highest amount of foreclosures than any state. And, just like Austin, Texas, where we're seeing all this inventory days on market piling up in parts of Florida, some of the hottest markets in the country are going to be where you see the biggest collapses. That's how it always is. Here's one from CNBC. All the data so far is showing inflation isn't going away and is making things tough on the Fed. Not just the Fed, it's making things tough on everybody. The Fed is going to have to keep rates higher for longer or even hike at some point. I would say this today. The Fed needs to begin raising rates ASAP, immediately. This government needs to stop spending money. Again, we have got to stop spending money, and rates must go up ASAP, or this is going to get completely out of control. You cannot have the Fed raising rates and the U.S. government spending money hand over fist. This is just going to cause more inflation. This is why inflation isn't going away. The government is literally outspending the Fed. I don't know why Jerome Powell just doesn't come out and say to the U.S. government, you've got to stop spending. We're raising rates. We're going to have to raise rates consistently now, and we're going to need to cut government spending ASAP, or we're going to be in very, very big trouble. An abundance of money still sloshing through the financial system is giving consumers lasting buying power, it says. In fact, some shoppers are spending more than they're taking in, a situation neither sustainable nor disinflationary. Finally, consumers are dipping into savings to fund those purchases, creating a precarious scenario. Personal savings rate in March is now down to 3.2%. What does somebody like Dave Ramsey say to that? Personal savings rate down to 3.2%. You think that people are going to be able to go out and buy a house with a savings rate of 3.2%? You think that this is a booming economy? You think that this is a strong consumer when you have a savings rate of 3.2%? Come on, let's wake up and smell the coffee, people. Here's another one today from Fox Business. Fed's favorite inflation gauge rises faster than expected in March. PCE index, personal consumption expenditures, up 2.7% year over year. Core prices, which strip out food and energy, climbed 3% from the previous month and 2.8% from the previous year. The Fed is not cutting rates. They're going to have to raise. But is this government going to slow down on the spending? This is absolutely out of control. Wolfstreet.com. Fed's wait and see on rate cuts further supported by extra hot core services, PCE inflation, and hot core PCE inflation. Housing inflation refuses to cool for the 8th month, and 5 of the remaining 7 core services accelerated further. Again, not good, and this is going to leave the Fed with no other option but to raise. Core PCE index, again, we just talked about this, excludes food and energy, jumped by 3.9% annualized in March from February, nearly double the Fed's target 2%. Let's talk about the 5 of 7 categories where it accelerated. Healthcare up 3.5%, transportation services up 5.4%, financial services and insurance up 6%, non-energy utilities up 5.3%, other core services up 3.8%. So, and that, for example, cell phone usage, bills, household maintenance, household repairs, accounting, education, clothing, things of that nature of 3.8%. Markets across the board up today, and just reading some of the data today, Ford just reported a massive loss on every electric vehicle it sold. Ford sold 10,000 EVs, their Model Es, in the first 3 months of the year, losing $1.3 billion. Yes, let me repeat that. They've lost $1.3 billion in the first 3 months. This is equating to $130,000 per vehicle. You can't make this up. They're losing $130,000 per vehicle. And yet, I think the other day they came out and their sales numbers were up. It's hard to fathom that when you're losing $130,000 a vehicle on EVs, $1.3 billion. How are markets up with that kind of news today? Here's another one. Hertz loses another $200 million from its EVs. $245 million was written off or written down in the fourth quarter. Now they have a loss of $440 million on their EV gambit. Markets up today. Of course, the Fed is going to have to raise. Here's another one. Comcast lost over 487,000 TV customers and lost 65,000 internet customers. People are having to make some decisions here now. I saw today on Fox Business a restaurant CEO saying that less people are coming into the restaurants, they're spending less, they're cutting out an appetizer, maybe they're not having steak, they're having chicken, maybe they're not drinking a soda, they're drinking water, they're cutting something out, they're spending less, they're going to the restaurants less. And so, of course, people are shutting off the internet, they're shutting off the cable, they're having to make some real life decisions now. One from the Hedge today, why are so many Americans that can't find a job, why are there so many Americans that can't find a job, even though they're desperate to be hired? What is going on? We've talked about this many, many months ago, where people were filing hundreds of applications and not getting a job. The last number, what did we have? 8.9 million jobs out there. So, it's so easy to get a job. So what is really going on with all those jobs? There was a gentleman named Michael in the article, and he said he'd just been laid off as a custodial foreman in September of 2023. And he says every day he wakes up, has a cup of coffee, turns on his computer, goes through the state's unemployment job search sites that he was provided. After 300 applications, he got one interview in 7 months. Does this make any sense? So many people wrote in the comments, and I've seen so many articles where people said that are these jobs even real? Are these jobs even real that they're applying for? That they would apply for hundreds of these and nobody would call them back. They'd call a number, get a voice recorder, nobody would call them back. File an application online and never get a call. So what is really going on? Again, do you really believe all of this manipulated data that is out there? Is there really 8.9 million jobs? How many of those jobs are real? How many of them are part-time? I don't know. This is getting really strange. New York Post, Fresh Direct may go under as parent getter looks to cut cost. Don't see how it lasts much longer than a year. Fresh Direct once valued at $12 billion. Now people are cutting back. People aren't spending money to have their food delivered. Now people can't even afford to go to a restaurant. They're cooking at home. Have things changed? This company, Fresh Direct, has 3,200 workers. There's a good chance that by this summer, at some point this year, these people may not have a job. I hope that these people have been preparing. I hope that they have 6 to 12 months of cash reserves. I hope they're prepared to lose their job. Nobody is immune from this devastation. More people are losing their jobs every day. And they're going to keep telling you that, man, there's so many good jobs out there, and household spending is up even though you're getting less. The consumer is strong, the economy is strong. Go get yourself a job. But then you apply at 300 different places and you don't get a job. The hedge, retail sales data suggests a strong consumer, or does it? Retail sales increased 0.7% for the month. And this has been praised by all these analysts, by the economists. They keep telling us about the strong consumer. But here is the bottom line. You're paying more, you're getting the same, or you're getting less. And they use an example in here in this article that if you go to the gas station, or you did go to the gas station and you were paying $3 a gallon to fill up your 18-gallon tank, it would cost you $54. Now it costs you $72. Are you getting more gas? No, you're getting the same, but you're paying $72 instead of $54. When you go to the grocery store, you're paying more for a bag of potato chips, but the bag is half full. I think there's a ton of gouging going on at the grocery store. But look, there's no doubt labor costs are up, food costs are up, but I think there is some gouging going on too. But at the end of the day, you and I are paying more, we're getting the same, or we're getting less. And it's really, really unfortunate. So much going on out there. I hope everybody has a safe weekend. Be very, very careful out there. As I've said, be very careful in large crowds. We're seeing more chaos, more than ever. And you can bet that things in the Middle East are not over. We're not being told, 90% of what's going on over there. I do believe we're going to have retaliation here at some point. I'd be very, very careful in big crowds. Make sure you're out training. It's not going to hurt you to top off a little extra food and water. Nothing is going to stop what is coming, but do as much as you can to kind of just pad the impact here a little bit by having a cash reserve, having some gold and silver, being out of the system the best that you can, having some skills, having some training, having something to fall back on. If you can get extra hours and work a little bit more and build up the war chest, I think it's a great idea. A lot of people just want to stay at home and pick up a government check. That's up to you. But I think to be preparing, you need to be productive. You need to be out there working. It keeps you sharp physically, mentally. I think that there's some pride. I think people look at themselves different when they're actually earning their own money and not dependent on the system. Your grandparents would never take money from the government. They would never do that. And now today, people can't get their hands out fast enough for another stimulus check or, welfare or any type of government subsidy. People are so dependent on it, but that just makes you a slave. And when they pull the plug on this whole thing, you're going to be nothing more than a slave. The people that are going to survive, the people that will prosper will be the people out of the system, people who have their money out of the system too. If all your money's on a computer screen, if all your money's tied up on Wall Street, I wish you the best, but they can pull the plug at any time. Let's not forget cyber attacks. We have a lot of enemies, and they're going to be hitting our financial systems, our banks, investment companies, Wall Street, you name it. This stuff could all be shut off in the blink of an eye, and you've got to ask yourself, are you prepared to deal with that if it happens? Because the only thing you have at that point is what you can get to, what you can physically get to. People aren't going to be taking digital money. They're not going to be taking cryptos. They're going to be taking real things. Do you have barterable items? Do you have some silver? Do you have some gold? Do you have some cash? Do you have some skills? I'm going to leave it there today. Please feel free to comment down below. So much happening. Please like, share, and subscribe. God bless all of you. Be careful out there. There's a lot of things happening. We got a lot of things happening in the real world that we're not being told about. They don't want to alarm you, because if you're alarmed, if you get scared, you get nervous, you might actually take action and prepare. I think the system wants you as unprepared as possible, because then you're much more easily controllable. The people who are not debt slaves, the people who aren't completely subservient to the system, they're not controllable. And these will be the people that are going to go out and they're going to succeed, they're going to survive, they're going to prosper because they're not tied 100% to the system. So keep that in mind. God bless every one of you. Thanks for tuning in today. And as always, I look forward to speaking to all of you very, very soon.